Scott Hurran. I am the Artistic Associate at Eastern Angles here in Peterborough. Eastern Angles are also based in Ipswich at the Sir John Mills Theatre. Eastern Angles is a professional rural touring and site-specific theatre company who focus on new writing, new audiences and the development of new talent. Our stories and themes are derived from our sense of place, specifically looking at East Anglia and the east of England. We combine heritage and theatre to make regional stories and hidden stories come to life on stage. And when creating new work, we have a mission statement that we work against. And that mission is to provide high quality theatre, to maintain and promote a regional identity, and to tour to theatre spaces, non-theatre spaces, community venues, and to develop and produce new and original work. And part of that last one is our spring tour, which is coming up, and that is a production that we tour to communities, to their village halls, to small scale venues across Essex, Suffolk and Norfolk throughout May to June. And that production is a new play by writer Tony Ramsey called The Tide Jetty that I will be directing, and that will tour from March till June. And the play is set in the 1800s, and it is about two brothers, Tucky and Nathan, who grew up on the banks of Breydon Water alongside their best mate, tomboy Eliza. The three of them are completely inseparable and they live out their lives together. And as they grow older, the inevitable happens and both the boys fall for Eliza. But a tragedy kind of takes place and splits all three of them apart. And years later, we meet them, which is where the play starts, to discover the truth of kind of what really happened back when they were younger. And Tony has written a really thought-provoking play about what it means to preserve a shared history, or how we treasure the roots of where we grew up, and what happens when we go back to that to confront something. And I'm not going to spoil too much for you about the story, but it is a really interesting and moving account of these three people's lives. So at present I am about 3 weeks away from starting rehearsals, and to prepare for that I look at the script a lot, I will read it a lot. One of my favourite things to do, which I kind of find really, really useful to get as much information out of the script and to take on the world of the play and create it in my mind, is by reading the script from each character's point of view. So often you will have a lead character in a play and kind of you can pin everything on them, but it's really important to pay attention to other people and other subplots and to actually really sort of get underneath that and know exactly what it's about. So I'll read each scene from a different perspective, and I will read it again and again and again and again to get as much information as I can as possible. And what that really helps me with is not only being able to communicate my ideas to actors in the rehearsal room, but also when I'm talking to other practitioners, it really enables me to have a sense of the world of the play and be able to communicate that to the set designer, the lighting designer, the stage management team, the production manager, everyone, so that they are all kind of engrossed in that world of the play. Another thing that I like to do when rereading through the script is trying to identify different words that maybe come up quite often. I often find that with playwrights you will see a certain word that they may have consciously or not put in that starts to emerge. So for instance, one of the words in this play, there's a lot of talk of like decay or fixing things that are rotting and rebuilding them, or sometimes you don't have to do that and sometimes you do, and that's kind of a central theme. And we are set on the banks at Breydon Water, and we are going through different seasons, so the land is changing, the terrain is different. It can be boggy, it can be dry, there is water, so all those things kind of push towards this word of decay. So for me, that then enters a really interesting discussion with set designer. For this play, we go back in time and we go forward, and so the age of the character sometimes changes, but they are playing the same character. and then there is another group of actors within the play who are multi-rolling and have 2 characters to play. So when we started auditions, it was really important for us to be open about that in our discussion with actors, so that they knew what we were looking for, that clear characterization choices had to be made in how they distinguish between 2 different people, because often in this play the scenes can be short, and that turnaround of those characters is really, really quick. So we don't have time for huge elaborate costume changes that you might expect in other productions. It's a really clear and easy way to move between 2 characters. We kind of have to rely on actors who are really good with their bodies, who understand movement really well, and are able to find a character hook that can bring them into another character's mind and then go back and access another one. So it was a really, really tricky process to find actors who could do that. And on top of that, something I haven't mentioned is the play has song in it. Tony's written some wonderful songs, and we're working with a composer called Chris Warner, who has developed his composition and has been going down to Braden Water with Tony to record sounds of the environment, to bring into the play and to help us create that world. So you can kind of see how each practitioner is beginning to put together their elements. So we kind of have me doing my textual analysis and looking at the script. You've got Jazz Swan looking at the visual sides of things, and then you've got Chris Warner, the composer, looking at the audible time. And when those worlds start to come together, we begin to ask ourselves questions of what's important about the play. And what I tend to do when going through the script and having these discussions with people is kind of write these questions down, because they might not be something that I can answer straight away. So they are things that I can hold on to, and I've got them in a sort of a book that I will take into rehearsals, and there might be questions that the actors bring up on, or there might be answers that come from exploring different things in the rehearsal room. And then I can feed those back to those practitioners, because they might not always be present in the rehearsal room. But to go back on the character side of things, we'll be working with a movement director, Simon Carroll Jones, who will be coming in and helping us establish loads of different things in that environment. So thinking about the location changes, thinking about the characterization of all the actors, and thinking about the terrain in those locations, because it's such an important part to establishing that sense of place for these characters. So we're really fortunate to have that many creatives involved and to be inputting into that world. And for me, it's such a huge collaborative process of discovering what the play is and what it can be and what its potential is. So to have all of those people kind of buying into one world and contributing towards it, asking questions and challenging ideas, is really important to make sure that the play is the best that it can be, and that we do a really good job of showing Tony's work. And theatre for me isn't about one person's mind, or my mind as a director being presented on stage. It is about lots of people coming together and discovering what a play can be. As we go forward, now as we start to approach rehearsals, it gets a little bit scary, because things start to get a bit more serious and things need to be finalised, so that we can go in and be in the best position to work with our actors. So at the moment, me and Jazz Swan, the set designer, are going through a process where we have presented our white card model, which is a sort of draft idea of what the set design might look like. And we present that to the team at Eastern Angles, and we get feedback, and we have a discussion about what we think is important, what we think might work, what we think might be difficult and challenging, and how we might compromise or change things. That's a really important part of the process, because we're finalising our ideas, and we need to be certain that we are giving the piece the best visual identity to go forward into the rehearsals. And then me and Jazz will have a bit of time to finalise those ideas and to work on them together, to then present the final model box, which I'll show to you guys next time that we speak. But going forward now to rehearsals, I'm beginning to structure what that rehearsal process might look like and the style of working that I want to be doing. So because there are so many other creatives, it's really important that they are present in rehearsals and see that things are developing, because even though when we're rehearsing for 4 weeks, things can change. within 2 days, and it's important that everyone's kept up to date with that. So Chris Warner and Simon Carroll Jones will come into rehearsals and work with us in different ways. So that rehearsal structure that we'll be looking at will be identifying all the scenes that we think we can cover across the weeks. So we'll rehearse for 5 to 6 days a week, and we will identify each day which scene we are going to be working on and what other practitioners are coming in. So whether it will just be me leading that, or whether it will be Simon coming in and doing a movement workshop, or whether that will be Chris coming to teach them the music and direct that. So our first week of rehearsals will start with a read through of the text with the whole of Eastern Angles, and that's a really sort of welcoming opportunity, one for the visiting cast and creative team to meet the wider East Angles team, but also for everyone to hear the play for the first time read out loud, and to hear the people that will be reading it and performing it on stage. It's a really important part of the process. From there, Chris Warner will be doing a music call and teaching our actors the songs from the show. Our actors might also be playing instruments, so Chris will get a feel for what might be potential for the show in the ways of who can play what, when it might be appropriate to have something in a scene. For instance, it might not be appropriate in our opening scene for loads of people to come on with the guitars because Simon might have thought up of a movement sequence that we might want to do and I might be doing something. So it's important that we always collaborate. So Chris will be teaching them that, and then we'll meet with Simon at the end of the week when we've kind of established the first couple of scenes of the play, because the first one is a huge sequence that takes place in bread and water of the character Nathan swimming, and I'm not sure how we're going to do that yet. How to present someone jumping off of a Tide Jetty into water, swimming, and having music played over the top of that and everyone singing is a really exciting and challenging opportunity. But yeah, Simon's got some ideas of how we might achieve that, and so have I, and I really look forward to doing that in that first week. And for me, what then becomes really important is that each discipline within the play, so my direction, the visual side of the design with the set designer and the lighting designer, the sound design with the music and the composition, and then the movement with Simon, that it all has its own visual language and identity, because they all have to be contributing towards the world of the play. So that is so important for me that we establish that in the first week, because then the 3 weeks after that, it makes it a lot easier for us to be able to hook any idea onto what we've already created, and things might change, but it's a really good springboard for us to start on. Next time we meet, I will take you guys through the set and costume design, and where we sort of begun with our discussions, and where we've ended up, and how that will be presented to the company of actors when we meet them on our first day of rehearsals.